right. There we are live. Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you here today on our catch-up week for the Homeschool Teacher Lounge. We've taken quite a break, but it's time to be back to school, and so back to the Homeschool Teacher Lounge. I am Misty Winkler, and I write and podcast at simplyconvivial.com. I have a brand new podcast that just released last week called Simplified Organization. Get more done at home cheerfully. And that one is an interview podcast. So it's a lot of fun. And I kicked it off by interviewing Sarah McKinsey about getting stuff done at home. So you definitely want to check out Simplified Organization. And I'm joined by Pam Barnhill.
Hello. How are you doing, Misty? It's so good to see you after our long break.
I know.
So I am Pam Barnhill, and I blog and podcast at pambarnhill.com. I have the Your Morning Basket podcast, which is starting back tomorrow. And then also the 10 Minutes to a Better Homeschool podcast, which started back last Friday, and Misty Winkler was my guest on that particular episode of the podcast. So Don Garrett is saying we have no sound.
I don't know why that would be. Looks like there's sound.
I'm going to tell her to refresh, maybe. Did you turn it off and turn it back on again? But anyway, so that's where you can find me on the internet.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So today, I guess we start usually by sharing what happened this homeschool week. And it's been a week at our house because we're moving across state lines tomorrow. So this is not a typical January start for us, and things are a little bit crazy. But so usually we start school back up the first Monday of January. So this year would have been the 3rd. And so because we are moving and life is crazy right now, we only did a tiny bit. And I would have not done anything at all, but we are moving away and we have in-person classes here. And so we wanted to have our in-person classes one last time. So we only did the stuff for our in-person classes together last week.
Okay, so you're kind of like, and they're saying that there's an echo from me, and I don't have AirPods real quick, so maybe you turn your volume down a little bit. So you're doing not what you would normally do, but what you need to do because of the move that's coming up really soon, right?
Tomorrow. So in the other room over there, it's all craziness is happening outside. My door is closed, and I bet you could still hear a little bit of craziness happening over there. The packing tape, the stomping of feet, packing up boxes and moving them out. But we still have quite a bit of packing to do, and as you can see.
I thought that backdrop looked awfully good, considering that I knew what was happening tomorrow.
Yeah. This corner hasn't been touched yet.
That corner will be the last thing that's touched.
Yeah. Or we'll start taking it down as soon as this is over.
Yeah. So it's kind of a different start back for you, not your normal thing. And we're going to be talking about homeschooling through a move. We're going to let Misty get moved first. We're going to give it a few weeks. And then we're going to talk a little bit about homeschooling through a move in a few weeks. But I love that you guys said, you know what, we're going to do what's important to us. And what's important to us are these classes that we do with our friends that you're going to do them virtual, right?
Yeah. So this week we won't do them. But then next week we'll start those classes up as Zoom classes.
I'm sorry.
I know. It's not ideal.
But it'll be better than not at all. So.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we started back as well. And actually, I will say it was probably one of our better starts after a break ever. So I'm just going to pat myself on the back. And because it'll probably never happen again. So while I'm able to, I'm just going to pat myself on the back. So we started back last Wednesday. So if you know me, if you've heard me talk about starting school, you know that my favorite thing, my MO, is always never start on a Monday, always start on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And so that was what we did. We started on Wednesday because then we only had to do school 3 days and we got a weekend. And honestly, we were only supposed to have to do school 2 days because my daughter was supposed to be working a retreat this past weekend. She's on a retreat planning team for our church, and she was supposed to be working it. I was going to have to drive the retreat team 3 hours there. So we weren't supposed to do school Friday, but the Omicron uptick in our area caused the retreat to be postponed. So we ended up doing school on Friday. So we ended up doing 3 days last week. But all we did was, well, I can tell you what we didn't do. We didn't do writing and we didn't do history. And so we did everything else, but I think just taking those one or two little things off of their plate made them feel like they were getting away with something. And so they're like, oh, it's not a full day of school. It's just a little bit of school. So we did do that. And it went really well. Like nobody cried. Nobody pitched a big fit. And that's all normal stuff for starting back to school, right? And nobody did any of that stuff. And then today we just rolled in. Now, we don't normally do history on Monday. We don't normally do history until Wednesday each week. But today we just rolled back in and started writing again. And it's been going really, really well. So I'm like super happy. And then I followed Dawn Garrett's advice and did my, morning time. I didn't start anything new, just did review stuff. And that worked really well too. So, yeah.
It was funny when I still gave the kids a checklist so that they would know what they did have to do for the classes that we were doing. But I did not want to do math because, we've already come off of such a long break. So it's going to be rusty getting started. And then we would take this week off. And so I wasn't going to do math for a week. And just barely maybe get over that math schlump. And so it was like, no math. And I thought everyone was going to be excited about this. But my 11-year-old son saw that there was no math on there, and he saw his checklist, and he just was crestfallen. And the disappointment was all over his face. And I'm like, what's wrong? He said, there's no math. Math is my favorite.
Aww.
And so I told him, well, we're not pulling out the math books. No one's correcting math this week. So if you really want to do math, you can do Khan Academy. We'll put half an hour of Khan Academy on your checklist. So I got him set up with an account there, and he loved it. And then my older daughter saw that he was doing that, and she said, well, can I do that? Because she's so worried that he's going to get ahead of her. So she wanted to also advance as well. If he was, she was. So they did Khan Academy math last week. Not the 9-year-old was excited that there was no math, so she did no math. So you just never know. Kids are funny.
Kids are funny. Kids are absolutely funny. So yeah, but it was good to be back to things. It was good to be back in the swing of things. A lot of times I find that keeping up with my schedule, and I know I'm saying this as you're just about ready to move, which I know is going to kill you. But like having that schedule and that normalcy and that do the same thing every day helps me be more productive than if I don't have that.
There we go. I was just looking. There was a little YouTube warning that we're buffering. There's not enough data. We haven't shut the internet off yet.
Not yet, anyway. So, Pray Love Homeschool, moving 1,400 miles. That's a long way.
That's a big move right there.
Yeah, that's a really big move. For sure. So, God bless you. All right, well, we're talking about reading this week, right?
Yes, yes. In honor of the Scholé Sisters 5x5 challenge.
Yeah, which Misty is doing this year and Pam is not.
Well, then you'll get no finisher pin.
I didn't get a finisher pin last year. Because I didn't finish. So I have a whole new philosophy of reading that I'm working on.
Okay.
But you go ahead. Tell us about what your 5x5 challenge stuff is this year.
So the Scholé Sisters 5x5 challenge is 25 books in a year. So it's significant, but not crazy. That's 25 books. And so 5x5, it's 5 different categories, and you choose, every person chooses their own categories. And then you pick 5 books in each category that you're going to read. And, you could pick those ahead of time, but you don't have to. You might just say, okay, I finished one book, one history book, if history is the topic, and then you pick another one. And so, but as the year goes on, you read 5 books in 5 different categories. And so that helps you, helps me, helps all of us read broadly, because we can pick categories that stretch us, categories that keep us reading within our vocations or in areas that we're weak, or it can help us balance our fiction and nonfiction. So you're spreading your reading out and not just reading all of one kind of thing. And then you're also reading deeply, because you're not just reading one history book or one novel and calling it good. You're reading more in one category. So you're reading both widely and broadly, but also not trying to read 100 books, because finding time to read is hard when you are homeschooling and you've got stuff going on. Yeah. So someday I would like to read 100 books a year again. This time of my life is not that time.
No, not at all. Yeah. I totally get that. So Lindsay is needling me. She's trying to appeal to my competitive side, but what she doesn't realize is, being an INTJ, is I actually have to care. I can make up my own rules, Lindsay. Sorry. I'll just say Misty's in a totally different contest than what I am.
So what's your new philosophy then?
Well, it's just, I'm trying to fall in love with reading again. And I find that by making these lists and assigning myself these books, that it's counterintuitive to that kind of thing. So my goal this year is to read every day. Just very simply find a few minutes every day to read something. I don't have to, I can just go choose something off the shelf. I can find something that, just to fall in love with it again. Because I think the past couple years of attempting reading challenges has really made me dread reading a little bit. I know they work great for some people. Dawn Garrett just loves them and excels at them, and Abby too. You guys are all like, "Oh, I've got to finish my thing," and I'm like, I'm just not enjoying it. And so that's what I want to do, is I want to enjoy it a little more.
Yeah. Well, if you aren't going to win it, then it's like, well, I'm not doing it then.
Right. It's okay that I'm not winning. I wasn't playing anyway. Guess what? I'm not going to win any soccer games this year, but that's because I'm not playing.
Yes. So I love that, because
so Dawn's right. Dawn and Lindsay both are right. By the end of the year, I probably will have 25 books that I could categorize. And that may work better for me, is like look back over the year of reading and see what was it that I read and how does it kind of all match up. And I think there is so much value in reading a wide variety of things, not letting yourself get stuck in a rut where you're just reading the same stuff all the time. So I do think there's value in that for sure. So maybe it's just keeping a reading log and seeing what it is I'm reading and making sure that I don't veer off into one path too much and only read that. But it's okay if I do that a little bit this year, because the goal is to enjoy it again.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like build the habit too.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I know to finish last year's 5x5 challenge, since I had a couple months last year where I actually did no reading at all, then for the last month or so of the year, I became an obsessive reader. And so it really was a boom and bust cycle of reading for me last year. And that's not a very healthy pattern. So just working on that habit is a great call there.
Yeah. And, so many times, I mean, we get a lot of times moms will say, I don't have time to read. And you know what? I'm sorry. I'm just going to call y'all out on that one. I think the vast majority of you do have time to read. There has never been a time in my motherhood, even when I had 3 little bitty kids who were 4, 3 and 1, who, where I didn't have time to read. I just chose to do other things other than read. I chose to watch TV. At that point, there wasn't really a whole lot of social media to scroll, just a little bit. But, I chose to do other things with my time. And so I think prioritizing, you really can make the time to read. And audiobooks totally count. So, listen in the van or washing dishes or whatever, But there's never been a time when I couldn't read. There's always been times where I haven't prioritized reading.
Well, and I'm trying to find here the Scholé Sisters guide to Scholé for moms. So Scholé would be time for reading. That's not what it means, but time for reading is included in Scholé, which is leisure, contemplation time, thinking about ideas, and kind of not letting our minds atrophy. And if you sign up and get the guide for discovering what Scholé is for moms, I know that the next screen also will suggest our habit tracker for reading. And it's just 30 minutes a day, and you can track, again, some people more, most people probably. Some INTJs are just often the exception to the rule. It really works well for a lot of people to do a habit tracker, and you can fill in the dots every day. But even if you don't get all those dots filled in, even just seeing them accumulate, even if it isn't a streak, accumulating those dots, each dot counts for something. It's not just a streak that counts. Each and every time that you read, it adds up. The little drops add up.
Yeah, very much so. So what are you reading right now?
So right now I am reading just an audiobook. So I have only one audiobook going to make some progress in one. And then all of my physical books are actually packed. Go figure. But I had to think about my 5x5 challenge ahead of time so that I could pack the right books in the right places. So I have a box that says Mistie's 5x5. So I'm going to have a lot less reading distraction on my own shelves anyway this next year. But right now I am reading, it's called A History of Philosophy and Theology by John Frame. So, it's one of those books that gives a summary of the different philosophers. So it starts with the pre-Socratics, but it's actually going very quickly through the ancients and medievals, and it's going to focus more on the modern philosophies, and then with an emphasis on seeing how they are affecting action in the world and history in the 20th century. And it's all from a Christian perspective. And one of the things that the author said in the introduction was really interesting. He said, philosophy is spiritual warfare. And that's why Christians need to care about the schools of philosophy. So it's really interesting. And it's actually some of the best summaries so far that I've heard of, like Plato and Socrates. It's really approachable and well done. It's for a lay audience. And it's a 24-hour audiobook. So it's a big book, but it's not crazy.
Yeah, cool.
How about you? What are you reading?
Well, first I want to, this question here, Deloach Kid 4 says, I'm curious if the books I'm reading to my older kids count. One of them is an economics text.
Absolutely, Elizabeth. The answer is always it counts. Everything counts. Every reading counts.
That's exactly right. Totally counts. Yep, love it. So I finished, so the last book I finished, I guess, was in last year. So I'm like looking for a new book right now. I've got two choices. I've got two options, both that one of them, I guess I wanted to read so badly, I downloaded it to my Kindle and bought a hard copy.
I do that too.
Like, I totally didn't mean to do that.
Well, I do it intentionally.
Like, one day the hard copy shows up at the house, but I'm like, I think I have this on Kindle. And sure enough, I bought it on Kindle. But it's Live Not by Lies by Rod Dreher.
Yeah.
So I'm choosing between that one, and then also there's one that Sarah recommended to me, Secrets of a Charmed Life, which is a World War II novel. So, and she said that one was really, really good. She tried to give it to me when I was visiting her house, but she couldn't find it. So I was like, what was that book that you really, really wanted to give to me, but you couldn't find? And she sent it to me.
Nice.
So I picked that one up on Kindle.
Okay. Well, I'm curious to hear what you think about Live Not by Lies. I haven't read it, but I've read other of Rod Dreher's, and he's always interesting to read.
Yeah, I got it on a really good recommendation, so we'll see.
And I'm sure it will come up on a Scholé Sisters episode in the future as a Scholé every day. I don't know if everyone listens to Scholé Sisters, but we start off every podcast with our Scholé Everyday section where we talk about what we've been reading and some small thing that we're learning or that we like or don't like about the books that we're reading right now. And right now, the Scholé Sisters podcast is on break, but it comes back in February with episode 100. So we have a special, of course, for episode 100, but we're looking forward to the next season.
Yeah, all about what we've read and what we've liked. And
yes.
Good conversations. So, yeah, it was a fun episode to record. Well, Mystie, you probably have a box to pack, don't you?
Or 50. Yeah. So, yes, I will get back to the chaos of my house, and I will see you next week from an entirely different location.
Mystie will be back next week. She's a trooper, and we know what we're talking about, but I cannot think of what it is right off the top of my head. Morning time.
Nice.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about adding a little interest and spice to your homeschool with morning time and how you can do that. So, yep, we'll be looking forward to that.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming, and we'll hope to see you next week.
All right, go download that 5x5 challenge.